I started and blew hundreds of pounds of my budget on a Facebook ad campaign, essentially.
So want to touch on now, what sort of budget and what sort of investment would you recommend people make when it comes to marketing their store?
Yeah, well, I can speak from experience on this one because I certainly made all the mistakes when it comes to marketing when I first jumped in. I think I set up a Facebook ads campaign in the way that I saw on some YouTube video, and I just thought, okay, well, they'll guide me through it. That'll be fine. That's the way I'll make my sales. Not to mention I'd picked the complete wrong products when I first started. I hadn't validated my niche, but that's by the by. That's separate. So I started and blew hundreds of pounds of my budget on a Facebook ad campaign, essentially, that was doomed to fail. When I look at it now, I think, of course, it was doomed to fail. Not to mention the products that I was trying to sell were cheap products from China and were never going to convert at a rate that was going to be profitable, not to mention all the other issues that would cause. But I didn't make a single sale initially, like for the first few weeks of running them. I think after a while, I did make one or two sales and they both ended up in refunds. They were both problematic. And it was a very costly lesson for me on the importance of understanding marketing. So I'd say that marketing is essential because you want a machined kind of conveyor belt style business where you've constantly got more customers coming through the door and you build this system, but you need to be able to bring those customers in consistently, reliably, and not to mention profitably as well. You need your ad campaigns to be acquiring new customers at a cost that is less than the profit that you make on each of them. Otherwise, you're out of business. So whilst marketing is an essential, it's also a real kind of skill set, and you need to budget not just for ads, but I would actually put the majority of my budget when I start into learning ads, like learning what works for the model that I'm using, the specific model, not just like generic Facebook ad training that you might find on YouTube like I did. Don't make that same mistake. I think start out with small budgets, analyze the results that you're getting. Google Ads offers fantastic insights for beginners, and just choose a budget that suits you to start with. I mean, we recommend starting at about £30 per day once you're up and running. And by the way, we would only suggest doing that once you have 4 or 5 brands signed, once you've validated your niche products, once you have your minimum site built. Like there's a stage, and it's week 5 of our program, where we would advise you to even think about beginning to run ads. But yeah, if I was starting fresh into this business model now and I had never done it before, I think instead of reserving all of the savings that I had and thinking, okay, that's my ad budget, I'd actually be more focused on thinking, where can I invest here to shortcut the learning curve and avoid the costly mistakes to ensure that the money that I do then invest later, whether that's in ads or in software or in products, goes a lot further. And I think that's a real mental reframe that you have to go through, because you'd assume, I have this pot of money, I just want to spend it on ads. But it's like if you have an old car and you say, no, I've got this old car and it keeps breaking down. Well, what do? Just keep pouring money into it, keep paying to have it repaired. It's really inefficient with fuel. There becomes a point where you're like, actually, I'd be better here just investing in a different car that then doesn't take so much going forwards. And it's the same thing. If you can invest in yourself and learning the right strategy, the ad budget you have will go so much further, which will make you more profit, which you can then reinvest back into ads in a more efficient cycle. It's like having the new efficient driving car, right? So yeah, that way you're going to save money in the long run. You'll forever be able to launch and scale profitable ad campaigns, because once you have those skills, no one can take them away from you. And the specific model that we suggest is start off using Google Ads. They're the ads that convert the best in terms of high search intent. Then think about running Meta ads. So we set up Meta retargeting ads on Facebook and Instagram later. And we break all this down, by the way, in hours of over-the-shoulder, step-by-step, click-by-click tutorials in week 5 of our masterclass program. So we can link that below in the show notes too, James, if that's something that you think would be helpful.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that's down there, because both of us learned that lesson the hard way. I've still got the memories of the feeling that I had when I'd lost that hundreds of pounds. It sounds like you had the same experience. It's not a nice feeling at all. And what I tried to do was just the budget that I did have to invest in starting a business. Like you said, I threw that straight into marketing without really knowing what I was doing and where that money was going. And instead, eventually I realized that what I need to do is put the first investment that I have, some savings, into learning the marketing. And then when I then go to reinvest the budget that I've got into ads, that investment is going to be so much better spent, because I know what I'm doing with the investment and I know what products to generate sales for. So yeah, it's a learning curve, I think, that we've been through, and hopefully by sharing this, it will stop other people from seeing that they've got like £500 a month to spend on ads and losing that and wasting that on poor quality products until they find a winner. So hopefully this will prevent that. So I want to talk a bit about a hidden cost that doesn't really get much attention when people start to think about how much does it cost to start dropshipping. What do you think is the largest hidden cost that isn't talked about?
Well, it's probably the ignorance cost that I certainly paid when I first started. And that relates to me not having been educated or, trying to figure things out as I went initially. It's, a few weeks ago, I took my family on holiday to Greece for a good friend's wedding. And I remember when we got there, we rented a car and we're driving around. Now, luckily, I had my phone, right? And I had data on it, so I could use Google Maps and direct us to this villa that was really like remote. It was out in the sticks. There were some seriously treacherous roads on that drive, and it was getting dark. It was like the sun had pretty much set. It was dark, and we were driving up like these. I don't know if you've ever driven in Greece, but these like cliff face, curving, rocky roads where there's no barrier to the side. Like if you drive that car off, the car is rolling down hundreds of feet of a drop down the mountain. And there were times where I was like halfway up this kind of gritty road, and I looked back like in the mirrors, can't see anything. It's just pitch black. And I thought, I don't know what to do here if this is the wrong road. Like I can't reverse down this road. I am stuck. I'm committed to this path. If I didn't have my sat nav there telling me, hey, just round the corner, you will get to a point where like it all opens up again and you will be in the right place. There, like I thought, well, there's no way I could reverse back. So if I hadn't had that phone, I would have been in serious trouble. And that was like the map, right, directing me exactly where to go. And it's like that when you're starting out in business. If you haven't yet been in the business model that you're thinking of using the home turf advantage, without that guide, that Google Maps showing you the way, you find yourself halfway up a mountain on some treacherous Greek mountainous road, dangerously lost, and it's getting dark, and you don't know whether to continue. That's the worst part. You don't even know, should I continue down this path, or am I going to get even more stuck, or do I try and reverse and go back? Like you're completely lost, and it's horrible. So investing in my education up front saved me tens of thousands of pounds, probably hundreds of thousands of pounds, if I'm honest, over the long run. And it's that wasted ad spend, the wasted platform fees, or not to mention like just not even implementing the right strategy. Like I said from the beginning, just not validating the right market or knowing that if the products that I was thinking of selling would even sell, and if I uploaded them to my site, why are they not converting into sales? Why are people not buying them? What do I do if my ad campaign, I'm spending money, but it's not working? Why? I have all these questions, but I don't have a guide. All of these things that I learned eventually became crucial to my success when I invested in my own education. And if I'd chosen not to actually invest in myself to do that and shorten the learning curve, I'd have likely failed and given up a long time ago, because I'd have thought, well, it doesn't work and I don't know why and I can't figure out why, so I'll just give up. And unfortunately, we see so many people do that who never make that initial leap. So it's always good to, I think, just make sure that you have a clear path that you can follow. So you have the sat nav in your hand and the route you're on is working and it's worked for other people, and therefore you are, right? Because there are some really lonely times in entrepreneurship. So get around other people who are on that same journey as you. It really does help. The other thing I'd say is have a miscellaneous budget. So make sure that you just kind of set money aside to, whether it's like processing fees or unexpected delivery fees. If somebody lives in a place where it's a bit more expensive to deliver a product, just make sure you have a bit of a pot of money there to cover those kinds of things. And then the last thing is just stay informed, stay connected to your industry. Forums, communities, they can all be a great resource. In fact, we've got one that you can get invited to just as a bonus for picking up a copy of my Home Turf Advantage book. So if you head to htabook.com and buy a copy of that book there, you could join hundreds of other entrepreneurs who are also just getting started in our Launchpad community as well.
Yeah, the Launchpad community has been a great success. And for anyone that's starting with a lower budget, I think it's the perfect place to start. You can access the book with a full step-by-step guide, and you've got an invite into a community there full of other aspiring dropshipping entrepreneurs. And the success stories we see in there are fantastic. But I'm so glad you highlighted that ignorance cost. And I love the way that you phrased it as an ignorance cost, because I guess all of those mistakes I made and the money that I lost, I thought I was spending Facebook ads, but when you rephrase it, what I was actually paying was the ignorance cost that I had to pay because I didn't have the education to allow me to make the right decisions in terms of a marketing campaign, in terms of which products to sell, in terms of what my store should look like. All of those different questions, what that led to is me having to pay an ignorance cost. And people have to pay it until they pick up the right information in terms of knowing how to run an ad campaign, which products to sell, and that sort of thing. So that helps me to look back at that mistake and that hundreds of pounds that we both lost on the first stores that we made as an ignorance cost instead of a big failure. We had to pay that, and now we're able to get over that with the right training, of course, and the right communities around us.